What did you add? Okay, so that was the one
Testing.
item. Okay, I wasn't sure. I knew that, but I wasn't sure if there was more. Okay, yeah, I'm just setting my. All right, we're going to start our meeting. If you'd all be seated. So, welcome everybody to the Tuesday, May 21st, 2024 Town of Monroe Planning Board regular meeting. Noreen, would you please do the roll call?
Bonnie Franson.
Aye.
Jeff
Present.
Manson is out. Pat Shea.
Here.
Dylan Penn is out. Lou Rivera. He will be filling in for
Here.
Jeff Manson and Rob Garstack. He'll be filling in for Dylan Penn.
With that, I'll point out the fire exits. There are the two exits behind the audience, the main door this way, out to the front of the building, and then another one this way toward the courtyard. With that, could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance. Close back door, please. Thank you very much. First item on the agenda is a public hearing for Raywood LLC, 24 Raywood LLC. If you'd like to come up, good evening. And just state your name for the record.
Oops, yep. You have the green cards?
Make sure your microphones are on.
I think George turned them on.
You did? Okay. Great.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Isaac Stein from Ideal Design. Came to represent my customer, 24 Raywood. And so we have a bunch of, as per the last meeting, we have the certificate letter for the septic and the well submitted previously. The parking plan, thank you very much for the recommendation in the last meeting. So it was hard to work around it. So I appreciate the recommendation and it's now very good. Everybody is happy. The highway superintendent revisited the property on April 19, according to the new curb cut plan. Site plan and curb cut details are provided on page 3. Actually, one detail is still missing. We are aware of that. We clarified that for the road, construction. Then the tree plan also, the customer took the advice of the board, and they're going to add 14 trees as designed on the engineer's plan, laid out 14 trees. And we updated the plans and elevations according to the conversation last meeting, the railing, the door, and the floor. And So I think everything is addressed at this point. So I hope we can go forward to the public comment.
So I guess we'll open the public hearing, see if anyone has comments, and then we can always close it and do our regular. So with that, I will open the application. Second?
Second.
Franson,
Aye.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Lou Rivera,
Aye.
Robert Garstack.
Aye.
Thank you.
With that, the public hearing is open. Is there anyone here present that would like to speak on this particular application?
Should I step aside?
You could stay there for now. We have the podium. Yes. And we have the podium for you, Dennis.
Hello, is the microphone on? Good. You mentioned the tree plant. Has that been thoroughly reviewed? Would you want the Conservation Commission to review that?
Yeah, I think the minute said that it was going to be sent and that they had 32 days to review it.
I thought I emailed it to you, Dan.
I don't recall that. When was that?
After the last planning. I'll have to check tomorrow, and if not, I will get it to you first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I may have slipped up then. I'm sorry if that's the
No,
case.
no, I'm pretty sure I had done it right after the last meeting.
Yeah, okay. So
Please confirm with us whether,
I will do that shortly. Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Thank
I'll
you.
look now.
I think for our plan, are that we forward, that's pro forma, getting them. Anyone
I've
else?
I've also referred it to Karen Arendt for review of the plantings as well.
Okay, so we haven't heard back from her at this
We have
point.
not.
Okay. Yes, sir. Sure, come on up. And again, just state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Joel Levy. I'm one of the owners of 24 Haywood, the public hearing tonight. I first like to thank the chair and the board and Sean and Ashley for the support and the help to get through the process that we up to here. It's what's really felt caring and really helped to get through the process till here. I would like to assure you, we till here tried our best to comply everything, all requirements from the planning board. We will continue complying with everything from the planning board and the building department and the inspector. I would like to urge and ask if we can tonight close the public hearing and help us get through. We should be able to get to our new house. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that, and we'll discuss next steps.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Ashley, at this point, there being no one here from the public, and I don't really anticipate there being anyone from the public, would it be acceptable to close the public hearing?
Yes, I would just note that Noreen had received 2 emails, just the 2, right? 2 public comments via email that had been forwarded to the board and received by the planning board. There was one from Ossie Worsberger.
Or you're on the,
And a second one from Mordek Scher, and that was also received on May 17th, and both were in support of the project. It would be appropriate if no one else from the public is here to speak to close the public hearing.
all right, so I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing for this application. May I have a second?
Second.
Noreen?
Bonnie Franson, Pat Shea,
Aye.
Lou Rivera,
Aye.
Robert Garstack.
Aye.
Thank you.
So with that, the motion carries, so the public hearing is closed. Let's get into, still might be out. I don't believe we,
No, you don't have a resolution yet, and as far as comments, so the one item would be the MCC's review, which they have that 30 days, I believe, to review, 30 or 32 days to review the tree plan, and then also at the last meeting, we had discussed so they're removing, I think, was it 14 trees? So whether they're going to be proposing to replace those with new trees on the site, or if there's going to be paying the fee in lieu, and the board had also asked for a landscape plan at your last meeting.
They provided a plan that shows that they're proposing 14 trees, so I did provide that to Karen, as I said before, for review. But with regards to the landscaping, I think in front of the buildings, the previous renderings had shown landscaping in front of the buildings. If that is proposed, I think that should be added to the subdivision plan, or excuse me, site plan, so that can be required as part of the site plan.
So, and then the rest of these comments?
Most of them are technical. I will say that it was brought to my attention, I noted number 3, that the well testing had to be certified by a licensed design professional, that the existing well would be adequate to serve the new additional demand. It was brought to my attention that's already been provided, and I reviewed that and take no exception to it. Really, the remaining items are the landscaping, and additional detail with regards to the curb replacement and town road pavement section for the restoration of the roadway. Yeah, so they'll be modifying the curb cuts. They don't specify what the pavement restoration will be, and I just asked that that detail be updated to meet the town code requirement.
Okay, so a detail, it's not a,
Correct, it's a detail. Yep.
okay. Ashley, do you have any comments?
Nothing. So it would be appropriate for the board to authorize the drafting of a resolution of approval?
So, with regard to this, can we approve subject conditions to meet all these requirements, subject to satisfactorily addressing landscape? Prepare a resolution memorializing, or is there a
You
time
need
frame?
to have the MCC referral?
So that's not something we can?
No, that has to be
we shouldn't
before you
condition
take
it on it.
action.
Okay, all right. Yes, sir.
I did receive the plans from Noreen on the 29th of April, with no note whatsoever. I responded, okay, just got the site plans. Then I sent this to you as well, Bonnie. Do you think a site walk is needed, or I can review the tree plan with their arborist and respond with their comments? I didn't get a response. On May the 2nd, I said I would appreciate a response to my emails to you on April the 29th.
I don't remember seeing back from him.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry.
I will double check.
Yeah.
I can't get into my email tonight.
Yeah, but maybe it's okay. I'm just,
Thank you.
yeah.
So then we'll authorize you to draft the approval. And then in the meantime, Dennis, do you think you'll be able to get out to the field between now and our next meeting? Do you think you would be able to get out to look at the site between now and our next meeting? Yes, it would be.
I'm going back.
Like April?
13th, and
Yeah, if everything's in order, I mean, we don't normally, our regular business is conducted on the 18th, but we could do the 13th, depending on how everything falls. So yes? Is it, yes? Okay, perfect. So let the record reflect that the owners are nodding in the audience, yes.
the site visit, they should have signed a site visit consent with the
Form,
application,
right.
so, but if the owners want to coordinate to for Dennis to let someone know when he'll be going?
So actually, they did sign a consent.
I think we
They
have.
They did sign a consent with the application.
Yeah,
permit.
Do you want just notice before he goes to the property.
Do you want notice before,
Let's ask the owner.
like, in other words, did you want a phone call before? You're good? No? Okay. You're good to go.
Whenever you want to go.
And Dennis, if you could just submit any comments that the MCC has before the June 13th meeting? Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, so we are going to have our attorney draft a resolution of approval. We're going to take it up in our June meeting. In the meantime, we may get some comments from the MCC on the trees, and we may get some comments from Karen Arndt on the landscaping. We'll take care of these minor little issues that you have, and we should be good to go for June.
All right, great. One question I want to clarify about the landscaping. Sean, you mentioned about the landscaping shown on the renderings. I didn't understand properly.
So the previous elevation renderings showed landscaping in front of the building, whereas that was not shown on the site plan. So either update the rendering to not propose any landscaping, or provide on the site plan what landscaping would be planted.
Oh, got it. So the site plan calls for green and, I don't remember exactly. So it calls for grass all over, but we'll make sure that it matches. That's the
Right, there was
That's the main
there were flowering shrubs that were
flowering.
shown.
Oh,
That's what was shown in the rendering.
okay.
So
Do we need to have the flowering over there?
Does the board have an opinion on the landscaping?
I really have confidence in Karen Arndt. And she tends to think in terms of native plantings, et cetera. So I'd like to see her comments. Otherwise, I don't feel strongly. That's my opinion. Anybody else have an opinion on landscaping?
Opinion.
Same here.
We can.
I think in general, I'd like to see,
they're proposing to replace.
Say that again.
They're proposing to replace every tree that they're cutting down. So
So do we need to show the trees as well on the
they're
renderings?
shown. They're
shown.
shown on the landscaping.
Oh,
It was
that's
more just the shrubbery in front that was on the rendering, but the board's going to get comments from their landscape architect to weigh in on that and whether, and what should be there.
very good, and she may see for this site, given where it's located, given the conditions, you'd be better off with tree X instead of tree Y. So it's actually very beneficial to you.
So that means we'll wait for their comments about what landscaping is required?
So we'll make sure we get her comments before the next meeting. If she wants to make some changes and you agree to them, that could be a condition of an approval.
Got it.
So the objective is hopefully to adopt a resolution at the next meeting, because I think we're pretty much to the end of this. And again, it'll depend to some extent on the Conservation Commission and if they have any advice on the trees.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a motion to authorize the drafting of a resolution?
Sure. So does someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to draft a resolution for approval based upon all the comments we had here tonight.
Second.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Lou Rivera,
Aye.
Robert Garstack.
Aye.
Thank you.
All
Next
right,
month.
take care.
Thank
Good
you.
evening, everybody.
All right, so next item on the agenda is Meadow Hill subdivision, Camp Monroe Road and Lakes.
Bonnie, did you want to start, because I know Aaron Werner's on the Zoom and he has limited time.
Is that
this
all right?
evening.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we're going to take up Monroe comments first then. And let me get to my Zoom. Ashley, you had sent it, right? Aaron, can you hear us? Okay. Say something again? Hi, Marty, can you hear me? Yes. Let me try and arrange this. Hang on a second. All right. Hopefully that'll work. All right. So if you want to introduce yourselves for the record, and then we'll get into the meeting.
Sure. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, consultant team, and Noreen. It's good to be before you again. As you recall, my name is Dan Richmond. I'm with the law firm Zarin and Steinmetz, 81 Main Street, White Plains, New York, here on behalf of the applicant for the Monroe Commons. With me is John Dahlgren from Tim Miller Associates and Mark Seamers from Gietrzak and Faw. We're here before you on the FEIS, which has been through several iterations already. I believe we have or will be making shortly all the edits that we make. We believe all substantive comments have been addressed well within SECRA's rule of reason. We're looking to your board to grant or deem the FEIS complete for the purposes of SECRA, so that we can move on with this project, which has been under review with your board for several years by now. Again, if there are certain editorial comments that still need to be made, they could be made subject to those revisions.
I think.
All right, so the
Trying
consultant.
to do both, so, yeah, so give us,
Actually, take that one and put it down on your computer.
or I wonder if,
I think you usually use one of the, maybe the one
yeah,
that's
I
on the
think I
podium.
do.
Take the mic off the podium.
Yeah, if you would. Thanks, Mark. Okay, Aaron, why don't you try again? Oh, sorry. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear Aaron?
I can hear.
Okay. Okay, so Ashley, if you would kind of take us through procedure where we are, and then I think Aaron can talk and speak to the FEIS.
So the consultants on both sides have had a few technical review meetings since the applicant has last been before you in March. So the applicant's been working to address all of the consultant comments, and lately we've also provided some red line suggested changes to the language of the document as well. I believe the biggest item outstanding was waiting for the Orange County DPW to weigh in on traffic mitigations. And I understand that the board and the applicant's team were trying to set up a meeting with the county DPW to discuss those.
If you'd like me to address that, I don't know. I don't want to interrupt Ashley. Just on that particular.
Talking to the mic, please.
Sure. Well, I guess I'm asking if I can speak now, or if, I don't want to interrupt Ashley if we.
No, I
Yeah,
think
actually, let me then
I
just,
do want to address that one point.
okay, so address the one point, and then we'll ask Aaron in
Okay.
terms of overview of the FEIS. And then I think we can get a conversation about the Orange County DPW, because I did have the opportunity, Eric Denega reached out.
Okay, I mean, we're certainly interested in hearing your conversation, but I think, again, the traffic issue has been thoroughly vetted by AKRF. I'll let Aaron speak to that, but again, this has been, there was a scoping document that we've abided by, that we committed to in the DIS, which the board deemed complete, and there's a public hearing. We responded to all comments. I think there's ample information, certainly well within SECRA's rule of reason, showing that the mitigation measures we've proposed are feasible, will work. I think the county has asked for conceptual plans, which are typically not required at this point in time or prepared. And we're certainly, after the FES is deemed complete, willing to work with them. If any issue thereafter arises, again, that can certainly be made either a condition of site plan amendment, or if we need to revisit it with your board and amend secret findings, although I do not think that's necessary based on everything I'm aware of. We're concerned that we're waiting for a letter that, in our experience, DPW typically doesn't issue. They've had this before them for some time now, and we haven't gotten a response from them. So we don't, we're concerned about holding up the project for something that, again, could be a, bottomless pit.
I could just note, aside from the county issue, there was another item that came up during the review, the water, since the mix of uses has changed slightly, the water demand calculation has also changed, and I know Sean had some comments on that and was working with the applicant to update their calculation, and then once that number is determined, the applicant was required to get an updated letter from the Village of Curious Joel Town of Palm Tree Administrator confirming that they are able to supply that updated increased demand. So that is another item that is needed for the FEIS as well.
Again, my understanding is the calcs have been prepared. If it's the letter from the Village of Curious Joel that you're waiting for, I think that could be issued, and again, that could be made a condition of the FEIS being deemed complete. But again, I think we have that information now.
So Ashley, actually, let Aaron speak now. So Aaron, if you could give us your perspective on completeness.
Sure, I think you covered it pretty well. We've had a series of offline meetings with the applicant consultants, the applicant's full team, and as well as the town's full team of consultants. We felt that was a better way to start addressing these last edits and comments so that we can just move this forward. And the latest approach that we've been taking is the applicant.
Recording in progress.
The Word files of each piece of the FEIS so that we can review, each technical consultant can review their portions, provide comment, and directly edit, and then send back to the applicant so that they can package up a new document that the board can look at. Because one of my concerns is during this whole last few weeks of going back and forth is the board hasn't seen anything. So and I know you raised that as well. And we're like the attorney said for the applicant, the traffic analysis and conclusions we are at this point comfortable with. However, it was raised, by you and others on our meetings that, to move forward with a finding statement, it does need to be revisited, given the complexity of how many mitigation measures there are proposed here in different intersections and the timing and, having the county ensure that these can be done and that these are feasible mitigation measures, I think would be beneficial. We've already expressed our interest to have the FEIS state that these measures should be done before a CO is given to the project. And then our discussions and the revisions that they've made to different pieces of the transportation chapter response to comments. But again, I think if getting the county to weigh in and having that meeting would be advisable, and I think the board's comfortable with that, and I think you've been pushing for that. So that's really it where we are. AKRF has done our technical review is pretty much complete. We sent our edits around. I know that there's still some remaining edits being sent in probably by Frank Getchell on the water, groundwater geology type reviews, and Dave Tompkins also had some final requests as well, in addition to what Sean has been asking for. So I don't know the status of that, but I think if the applicant can keep, receiving these Word files from us with the comments and then consolidating them and presenting something back to the board that can be considered as the document that is accepted, that would be the best approach here.
Sean, did you want to add anything to all of this?
Yeah, just to Ashley's point earlier about the water, I had some comments on how the calculation was created, but I think that the letter from the village identifying exactly how much anticipated or what the anticipated demand is going to be is critical to the entirety of the project, given the I'll say lack of ability to provide water to all applicants within the villages. We just want to make sure that the anticipated demand is adequate.
So I'll give you my thoughts on all of this. So we, at the last meeting, had discussed working a little collaboratively with all the consultants so that the sections could be worked on and they could be edited and we could make sure that we were moving forward toward completeness. And I think that's happened, but in doing that process and trying to really push this to the finish line, the planning board has been waiting to see and for you all to get to final edits and has not seen the FEIS document as revised. So that to me is something that has to be done, number one. Number two, I did speak to, and let me step back, because there's been some moving parts, because some of the mitigation has been tweaked and revised a bit, I think we all need to make sure that it's all internally consistent, which is why we need to see the whole document holistically. So I think that's very important. I spoke to DPW because I really wanted to understand where they are with the review, what they're waiting for, what their expectations are. I spoke to Eric Denega and Anthony Trocchiano, Anthony Trocchiano, who I believe is the person who had written the letter. And essentially, and from the town's perspective and from the public's perspective, those county roads are extremely important in terms of their functioning because they provide access to our school district complex between the middle school and the high school, and there's a lot of development happening over there, and we need to make sure that that area functions. So these are not our roads. I've said that consistently, the county's roads. And we don't feel comfortable saying everything's okay without them speaking to the town and saying, we're good to go. So they had provided a letter. From their perspective, they did not think that they were yet at a point where they understood specifically the mitigations, what the applicant was committing to, and whether they are actually buildable. So when we speak to a conceptual plan, they're not expecting engineering drawings. They're not expecting anything that is detailed to the extent that you would need a permit at all. They indicated that they had the right-of-way information to provide to you all, and what they wanted Creighton Manning to do is to show conceptually the tapers or the left turn lanes or whatever improvements were proposed to get us to a point where traffic impacts have been mitigated. And then specifically, if those are the improvements, to make the key intersections function, what is the applicant's responsibility, or has the applicant committed to everything? I also asked them, all right, well, let's say, because I was giving I wanted to understand alternates, because there are situations where there may be additional right-of-way needed, and if it's owned privately and the applicant can't acquire it, then there needs to be a possibly different expectation as to the alternatives. So that's why it was important to them to understand whether there would in any way need to be private property acquisition. So that's their expectation. They have given the traffic study to Colliers, who is their consultant, and Colliers said that they were going to review it. It would be within 2 weeks or so, and that they were going to essentially make any comments as to whether they saw any adequacies or inadequacies. And frankly, because AKRF and Creighton Manning have worked together so, deeply into this whole traffic analysis, I can't imagine that Colliers is going to come up with any comment that's significantly different. So what they expressed, what is not holding you up and what does not rely on the applicant waiting for Colliers, is to actually get them this concept, to show that these are the improvements we're envisioning. It's in the right-of-way, it's not in the right-of-way, because, for example, if it's not in the right-of-way, then their mitigations, they may say, all right, this is how you're going to do it. that was essentially a lot of what the commentary was about, their expectations. They're waiting for you to get them, a conceptual plan. I will only add that when I was speaking with Eric, because they're also, I guess, overseeing Orange County Sewer District as well, that they indicated, hey, by the way, the sewer district is basically at capacity. And I don't know that there's going to be additional capacity to meet any demand until such time that there are, I guess, improvements made. I'm not entirely aware of where that whole process is, because I know they were looking to expand or to do something alternate. And it may affect your ability to tie in a particular time period. But I'm not saying that that would hold up anything. It's just a reality, and I think we need to all acknowledge it because it was expressed by the county to us. So that's where we are. I don't think we're ready to adopt anything this evening. I think that we're close, but we really do want to get something to the county, just so it's very clear what the traffic mitigations are, number one, and number two, what design is required for whatever improvements are proposed, and is it buildable? And that's the language that the county gave me. And in terms of getting a letter from them or not a letter, they would provide us with something. They indicated that every municipality is different. Some municipalities ask for it, some people, some municipalities don't. And so it's just in part dependent on what the town of Monroe is looking for. And I think in this instance, because of specifically Monroe Woodbury School District, we really want to be confident that when that building is operational, that we're not going to have traffic issues over there. So those are my thoughts. And let me just, before you say anything, Lou or Pat?
I'm just gonna say something on a personal level. So I've had 3 children graduate from Monroe Woodbury High School, and I can say that that area, without any other additional traffic, we're going back a while now, was always a traffic nightmare. So I just want to, it's on my mind, and I could just envision even more traffic on top of more traffic, how that's going to impact the district. And I'm speaking because I'm sure there's a lot of people in this town that are thinking the same thing. So I just wanted to, I'm sorry, it's just.
No, I thank you. I think we need to hear what.
My kids are
whatever
graduated,
concerns.
I'm done. But I feel sorry if something like this actually comes to fruition.
Without the appropriate
Without appropriate.
mitigations.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Pat?
I have, if you look at the minutes, I've said a lot about traffic. I have really nothing to add.
Okay. So at this time, let me ask a question. At this time, you want more information from the county to be satisfied that the improvements can be made so that that's reflected in our decision and our documents?
Yes. And, just to expound on my past comments, I think what it's going to take in order to fix this is the extension of, I think it's 105, where it goes from Nininger, it goes through that intersection there. That's probably going to be the thing that takes, but I don't know when that's going to happen.
Is that Nininger through to continue into Curious Joel?
Yes.
Okay, so going westerly into the village.
Right. Well, westerly.
Here, let me bring up a map.
Yeah.
That'll be the easiest thing.
The trooper barracks would be on the left if you're coming
Yes.
from Monroe Woodbury and you go through that intersection.
That connector road is part of the mitigations for this project.
So here's Nininger. Oops, sorry. This is the trooper barracks. So you're talking about eventually this connection?
Yes.
Okay. So, or again, I think, so to be clear, from a seeker perspective, the applicant's responsible for the improvements based on what their impacts are. So, you're not going to be required to mitigate beyond what your impacts are, but it may be that you're contributing to certain improvements as part of the overall package of improvements that are needed in that area. So, we should all be clear on that. We're not expecting them to build the connector but to make improvements, whatever's required, toward better functioning of that overall corridor. So, okay, so with that, is there something you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. This is John. So I unfortunately don't have the traffic study with me tonight, but I know that that intersection has been discussed as part of mitigation for this project, and it's either, and Aaron can speak to this, it's either a contribution lane or a commitment to improve that intersection. As far as the Dodge connector, I understand from Ken that is in the works, and that's I think an improved project that's coming.
Right. I think that's kind of a more regional project that's
Right.
going to happen, and I think it's a little complicated because there are wetlands in between.
Right.
And so there's permitting and other challenges that have to be addressed, but it is part of the overall improvement set for that area, for certain.
Yes. And that whole intersection has new lanes and improvements. So maybe Aaron can speak to that if he's still with us.
Aaron, are you still with us?
Yeah, I am for about another 5 minutes. I have to get to another meeting, unfortunately, but I don't have Elaine with me tonight, who's been the reviewer on the traffic, but I agree that this connector has been identified and as one of the many improvements that's proposed. I don't have the specifics of it in front of me, unfortunately, because I'm in the car, but we'll make sure that that's clearly in the next set of revisions. Pretty sure it's in there, but yeah, we'll make sure that it's clear.
So that's where we are.
Can I respond just briefly?
Sure.
I do want to first make it clear to Mr. Rivera and anyone else who shares a concern that there has been a traffic study. And again, I think your consultant, AQRF, has just said that it's comfortable with our review. And I think our review shows that the potential impacts of our project, including from a traffic perspective, can, and to the point of, our client's commitment, I think we've made clear in the technical meetings, that while we, would look for other people for contribution, we've indicated that the mitigations in the FES, our client would be willing to sponsor. So I think that issue has been addressed. In terms of Collier's review of the traffic study, again, a couple things. First of all, Collier's was representing the village of Woodbury, so they reviewed the DEIS, so I'm not sure what comments they would have on the traffic study now.
Yeah, and in fact, in as much as I appreciate the county wants Colliers to review that study, I think more importantly, they want to see this conceptual layout to understand the mitigation specific to this project. So yes, they're doing that, but again.
It may be worth it for there to be a call with the county, the applicant, and perhaps the board's traffic engineer to determine what exactly the county's looking for in order to move that forward.
Well, and I think, look, to be fair to our client, we've been trying to, work with the county for some time. We've been, even more recently trying to set up this meeting, with the planning board. Our concern is about holding up for something that the county has, respectfully, I think hasn't been as swift as it could have been.
I'm just going to say, in fairness to the county, they've also said that they've had expectations of when things are going to be submitted going back to November and not necessarily getting it timely. So, I think it'll end up being a he says, he says, she says, et cetera. It doesn't matter. At this point, we're where we are. They have a letter, and they're indicating, more importantly, I think, than Collier's doing any review, et cetera, is some kind of, they have the right-of-way, they said they were going to share that information with, I guess, Creighton Manning, and they just want to see the conceptualization of whatever the improvements are that are supposed to be the mitigation that this applicant is responsible for.
So I think I can understand. The FEIS provides conceptual plans for all the mitigation, and it lists the mitigations that are committed to by the applicant. What I think the county is looking for is, what may not have been in the FEIS conceptual plans, is the right-of-way.
Yeah.
And how, if it's buildable, if right-of-way is necessary for lane widening, adding a new lane, tapers, that sort of thing. So
Right.
I think, as we've discussed here, that kind of design usually doesn't happen until after seeker, but the county wants reassurance because this is such a sensitive area that it is buildable. And so I think that's where we're at.
And I think that was why they were saying, the right-of-way, because let's say, for argument's sake, theoretically, there's 50 foot of right-of-way, and then the improvements require 80 feet of width of a right-of-way. Are you going to actually be able to install, let's say, a left turn lane or whatever it is, another lane, if you don't have it and you can't control it? So I think what they want to understand is what is the reality in the field, because if certain improvements upon which the traffic mitigations rely cannot be done, then what is actually going to get done? Which is why it's very important for them. They are not looking for any kind of detailed engineering, we're ready to go to design at all. They're specifically wanting to understand the feasibility and the buildability of the improvements relative to what can be controlled from the right-of-way perspective. And it's a little crazy because there's a lot of, frankly, right-of-way things going on over there between the state DOT and 17 and those improvements. And then some of it would appear to be acquisitions that are relative to some other projects in that area. But I really, again, these are not our roads. Those are the county roads. And we really need, and we're happy to participate in a meeting with the applicant, with your group, with CME, with AKRF, traffic, or whomever, to move this forward. But, and to get to a final FEIS. But I am not at a point satisfied, because of my conversation with the county, that they're satisfied that they have feasible mitigations, number one. Number two, we don't have the whole document. I haven't looked at all the red lines. The board hasn't looked at all the red lines. And so I think it'd be premature to do it this evening anyway.
There's many different versions, floating around now with these different red lines. It's unclear what you'd even be, there's really nothing for you to take action on because there's not this complete revised document.
If I could jump in, and this is I guess, we could talk about this later, but we should have a discussion about, do you want a clean copy or the latest edits shown that were provided by you, Ashley, and AKRF? Should those edits be shown, or it's been back and forth quite a bit.
From my perspective, now I don't know with the consultants having to verify that everything's done what you need. I would think that the planning board needs just a clean copy just to read it now and to make sure it's all internally consistent, not with all the red lines and all of that. Just
the red lines would
document.
be helpful for the consultants, just to verify, that the changes have all went in.
Okay.
But for us, I think once that's done, and if there are any additional edits, those can be condition of acceptance, But I think this county road situation is really the most important and probably the last thing that has to be addressed. We do have our MCC person here, and we also have Mary from the town board. I don't know if you want to add anything to this, just giving you the opportunity and deference in case you want to have any comments. Okay. So.
Just, we've appreciate your time and attention and all your consultants' time and attention. We appreciate your attention and all your consultants' time and attention to this. I mean, again, just if the DPW had this comment, it should have been a DIS comment, it seems to me now. And it seems like, I think it's a little unfair to hold up the applicant at this point for something that, again, following, the way SECR is supposed to work, I don't think, again, if this was their issue right away and the fees, because.
But, go ahead, sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, I mean, again, look, I think there are ways that we could move forward with the project. I think from SECR's perspective, I think the lead agency, with its consultants has verified that, these traffic measures would alleviate or, would mitigate the project's traffic impacts. And I think that's the central question before your board right now. The DPWs and other agency and involved agency, they're going to need to make their own SECR findings, and there is time for these issues to be addressed. I mean, I don't think anyone should be concerned that somehow this project is going to be built without adequate traffic mitigations. I think it's clear that I think we've shown that it can and it will be, and this seems somewhat of a technical discussion that is more appropriate for, an ultimate permitting decision of DPW. But again, as I said earlier, I mean, even if ultimately they raise an issue and have questions about the feasibility, I don't think it would have to be revisited, and that's not, you're right, that's not the way SECR should work, but that's can happen. So again, I think we've shown that the project has been mitigated. I think your consultants have confirmed that. I think that's the issue before your board.
But I think Aaron, although Aaron may be gone now, are you there, Aaron? I think Aaron dropped off.
Yeah, just, yeah.
Oh,
I'm here. I was
so,
just about to get off.
so,
Texting Ashley that I have to jump off.
okay. All right, we'll talk to you later.
From a seeker perspective, the question is whether the document currently, if it adequately informs you of all the significant adverse impacts and also of the proposed mitigations. And the board's position is that they're not adequately informed without this additional information from the county. And I think working together to get, working with the county and figuring out what exactly they need, a response, to you as quickly as possible, the board's willing to do what it can in that regard to keep it moving forward.
And I would just say it's the agency that's telling us that they don't have sufficient information. And as much as it's being represented that they're specifically saying they need a specific plan, conceptual, to be able to make that determination, number one. Number two, having been involved as a professional in many reviews and many projects and applications, it is not uncommon to get DOT or another agency just to say, hey, do these mitigations look good? Are you good to go so we can close off seeker? And we specifically have an agency that's saying no, essentially, that we need a little bit more information. So again, Colliers, that's another traffic consultant, and not to diminish their piece in this, we do have AKRF, we have had Great Manning look at the traffic, so that's less my concern than getting the county some kind of conceptual plan with the right-of-way showing a mitigation and what you're committing to.
I mean, just finally, look, I think I've made my position clear. I'm happy to restate it. Again, the point of the FEIS is to substantively respond to all DIS comments. This wasn't a DIS comment. This is something that's kind of being thrown in at the last minute. This wasn't a comment from DPW or anyone.
You're saying specifically received from them on the DEIS?
I don't think anyone raised this issue on the DIS. So again, the question is, does the FEIS substantively respond to the comments? And again, I made the point, DPW is an involved agency. They're going to have to issue their own SECR findings per SECR, and they're going to have their own permitting review. So again, I just want to be absolutely clear. This project will be built with adequate traffic mitigation.
Okay, so what I'm...
I know that,
I'm going to...
of course, DPW's review and approval was always, I can't say for certain which comment, but I know that's always been discussed in the DEIS comments in terms of these mitigation measures, because of course they require the county's input. I think, again, for I just don't think board. And
And I
you
can
go
poll
back
the,
and forth all night, I just don't think
Yeah.
it's going to be
And-
helpful.
I will poll the board, it's not my decision alone, and just ask, do you want to deem this complete this evening? So, if I'm asked a question, I'm going to say, no, I don't think we can deem it, I don't think we can deem the FEIS complete this evening, that's my opinion.
Madam Chair, I hear what you're saying. I guess,
Well, in fairness, I'm going to ask my other
Okay.
members. Pat, do you think this can be, you can?
No, I concur with you. I think, the county is a tremendous element in this because they're going to be the ones that really fix the problem.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So, we're not going to deem it complete this evening.
I understand. Thank you. I would hope that, Madam Chair, we're very anxious to move this project forward. Hopefully, we can expedite our conversations with the county, give them whatever assurance they're seeking. Would your board be willing to have a special meeting in that event prior to June 13th, in the event we can get this resolved?
Indicated that we're open to holding special meetings if they're appropriate at the time that the group is ready to make a determination and, obviously subject to membership being present and getting a quorum, et cetera. So we've expressed that before, and I think we've worked very hard to be collaborative, to get online, to get on Zoom calls, to move this forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sean, did you have any last thing to say? Okay.
And
All
I
right.
just have to pipe in that I appreciate the consultants working back and forth in multiple meetings over the past couple of weeks to try to get this resolved. It's been a lot of effort and they've
It's a
been-
big project.
Yes, yes.
And there's some moving parts and there's some other agencies involved, so we'll get there.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yep. And if you want us to participate in a meeting with the county, you want our attorney or engineer to be present to discuss mitigations, just, keep us informed.
All right, we'll talk to you about the logistics. Okay, I understood. I thought you were trying to set up a meeting with the county or.
So Eric and I spoke, so they essentially told me what they would have said in a meeting, but if you want to set up a meeting or if it's appropriate to set up a meeting, we can do that. And because I had indicated I was going to reach out to the town board, to the supervisor in terms of communicating with the county if there was a venue to get the county together and the town together and the applicant together in a venue so we could talk about the mitigation. So it can still happen, but certainly after my discussion with Eric, I think having a meeting may be premature if they're really just expecting these concept plans. So,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thanks, John. Hello, thank you for waiting, I appreciate that. All right, so now we're back to Meadow Hill subdivision.
Good evening, everyone. Ryan Smitham, engineer for the applicant, McCura Norton Trolley Marshall. I just want to give you a rundown of the revisions since we were here last. The bulk zoning table has been corrected and amended based on some previous comments and amended to include the side yard setbacks that we had set for the conservation subdivision, the cluster. So the dwellings that are shown on this plan are actually larger than were on the previous plan due to the town's requirements for to have those actual square footages provided on the plans. These are not necessarily the proposed sizes, but the applicant wants to give himself some flexibility if a potential lot buyer wants a larger house, he wants to have that flexibility. As per the board's comments at our last meeting, the buildings on lots 1 and 2 have been slightly shifted back and closer together to accommodate some separation to the wetlands. This was a concern from the board previously. The dwelling on lot 3 was also shifted further back on the lot to also provide that separation. Lots 4 and 5, the dwellings were shifted slightly closer together. Once again, give some extra separation to the lot 6 dwelling, which was shifted also away from the wetland, again, to provide that separation. Additionally, the table of proposed number of bedrooms for each has been added. The sewage disposal systems have been designed based upon percolation testing and deep testing completed by our office. Again, some of them now show 5-bedroom systems just for flexibility's sake, not necessarily what final design is going to be. It might be less. Additionally, we did reach out to the wetland consultant who reaffirmed the bounds of the wetlands, because that was a concern during the last meeting. And I think that's all the revisions since we were here last.
Sean, comments?
So I don't have a bunch of new comments. Ryan addressed our previous concerns with regards to the bulk table. Except that the net lot area should be calculated, and it just should be shown in the bulk table. I asked that the finished floor elevations for the dwellings and the garages be shown. The applicant noted that the SWIP is being prepared and will be provided at a later date, as well as the tree plan once the board accepts the layout of the proposed dwellings. With regards to the scenic road, since Lakes Road is a scenic road, obviously the board has discretion on the buffer between the road and the dwellings. Electric lines are now shown. I should say, Ryan, for a lot of the proposed dwellings on a scenic road, we try to get the electric underneath the driveways or close to the driveways, whereas some of them are shown driveways. So we ask that those be provided, to try to mitigate that additional clearing required for that. And have you gotten any response from O&R whether or not those are feasible locations to tie in the electric?
Not yet, because we wanted to make sure that the board was okay with the locations before reaching out. So if we get them closer to the driveways, everyone would be acceptable with that. Okay.
Yeah, because of the scenic road aspect of this, trying to minimize disturbances so that we have a wooded appearance along the road.
Our office will not review the septic systems because this is greater than 5 lots. The county health department will review and accept those septic systems. And then, as Ryan mentioned, the applicant's wetland consultant reaffirmed the wetland delineation that was performed previously. I'm asking the board whether or not they want to have Dave Tompkins go and confirm the wetland.
So why don't we take that up? I would recommend that we have our wetland consultant do a check on the wetlands locations, just because there's quite a bit in this area, and it's pretty standard. We get them to go out and take a look. I would make a motion that we have Dave Tompkins go out, and our wetland scientist to go out to just do a field verification of the delineation. May I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
So, Madam Chairman, I'm going to ask you the question. Lot number 6, this was my concern the last time. And I believe, is it a 100-foot, should there be at a 100-foot distance from wetland? Yes. And they are? lot number 6 is?
They're within that 100 feet. The dwelling would be within the 100 feet, so they're asking for a permit, and they're asking to disturb that area. So we're not making a decision. This is their proposal. We have to analyze it, but even before that, what's on the table in terms of the motion is getting our own wetland consultant to verify that those are reasonable outlines of the wetlands. Does that help? Okay. So, Noreen, do you want to hold the board?
Bonnie Franson,
Aye?
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Lou Rivera,
Aye.
Robert Garstack.
Aye.
Thank you.
One of the things they could do is take a look at the wetlands, see what species are there, you know, if there's something significant, if it's a very valuable or a high-quality wetland, they may advise that, you know, they would relocate the dwelling or perhaps lose a dwelling, but I think that's why we need their input from a seeker perspective and for the wetland permit. On additional?
Nothing additional, but I'll reach out to Dave and ask him to verify the wetlands and to, advise if there's any, suggested revisions to the plans.
Yeah, and to think about if we do have to issue a wetland permit, does that seem reasonable given the quality of the wetland and what might be present? Ashley?
I think I may at the last meeting, but the entity disclosure form that was submitted in January was missing a signature page. So if you could make sure that's submitted in a complete form. Just a couple of additional comments on the bulk table in addition to what Sean had mentioned. So your note 4 indicates the minimum side yard is being reduced to 15 feet for one side yard and 30 feet for both. But the smallest side yard is 17 feet and the smallest total is 62.7. So typically the board, when you're approving a cluster, you reduce the setbacks to what is proposed on the plan. So just to make sure that asking for what there, and then also that cluster column should indicate all of the proposed reduced bulk requirements.
Okay.
And I don't think that column did. And then I have just cleaning up the notes a little bit. I could email you, though, my language suggestions for revising those notes under the bulk table, just to explain the planning board's ability to waiver some of those under the cluster.
That would be great, thank you.
That's really the main thing. I think the applicant board on the current layout, and then there's still various items that need to be submitted before you could think about taking any action under seeker.
And we have to do seeker before we open the public hearing, right? Okay. So does the board have any reaction to this layout? Lou, in particular, you started to speak to that lot 6. Let me get to that other map.
Sheet 4 is that zoom in on that one as well. It has a little bit more detail.
Does the 4 show the dwelling with the?
That was just past it.
So.
All the way on the right.
Okay, so this is good because here is your 100 foot.
Correct.
So wherever we see the 100 foot, we're seeing what buildings and what's within the 100 feet. And so, from my perspective, certainly before we close out seeker, I'd really like to get a good evaluation done of the wetlands. Because if there's something significant there, if there's a species regulated of concern, vernal, whatever, I think that's going to be important in terms of our determinations and whether this is in fact a layout. So on the one hand, you move the buildings on the way, but as you said, on the other hand, this is showing a more potentially realistic size for a dwelling. And then the septic has to be sized for 5 bedrooms, which could be optimal. So it's kind of a little bit of a trade-off there.
These are fairly large footprints, just to give them some flexibility. I don't believe that they will all be, but obviously they could be if the plan is accepted. And just to reiterate that none of this disturbance is of the wetland itself. It is of the 100-foot buffer that that is town of Monroe's buffer, not necessarily a state regulated
Right.
or Just
It's
to
Army
reiterate,
Corps,
correct.
right. And we don't have a jurisdictional determination, correct?
There, unless you're actually going to disturb those wetlands, you are very unlikely to get a jurisdictional determination from
Right.
from ACOE.
I would agree with you,
Yeah.
based on my experience. But I just didn't know if previously they had gotten anything.
I don't believe so, but I can check back, but I don't believe so. I think they are under, I would imagine that they would be the ones reviewing it if we were disturbing the actual wetlands. But even still, unless it was over a tenth of an acre, they probably wouldn't even comment on it. They would
Right.
Let the time pass. And
So just so, for information, when I refer to Army Corps of Engineers regulates wetlands, or they regulate waters of the United States, but there's been so many Supreme Court decisions at this point, we don't know if they're in fact actually regulated by that agency, if they're considered isolated. Next year, it's going to get more complex because the state's going to, or what's going to go into effect will be new state regulations. And in particular, the vernal pools, if there are amphibian masses there, will now be regulated, and presumably with 100-foot. Oh, are they going to be 300? For the vernals, yeah. So, I mean, it's really going to change the landscape. Having said that, they're not changing their maps. They will not tell us where vernal pools are. So it's going to be incumbent upon the town and the planning board to actually verify what's in the field and what's regulated. So I think next year's going to be a little crazy, and we should all have, that should be one of our training courses. We should get Dave Tompkins to come on up here and give us an overview of what the wetland regulations are going to be. I think that'd be fabulous. So let's see if we can organize something. So I think we'll have him check out the wetlands.
Okay.
And then, once we hear back from him, then I think we're closer to understanding where we are from a seeker process. This is an enlisted action, so we should be reviewing an EAF Part 2. So perhaps, Ashley, if you want to prepare an EAF Part 2, so that, for the next meeting, so that we can go through it.
They needed to
Mm-hmm.
things, so it's
I think they were holding off until they knew for sure that,
so assuming everything in the next
Yeah.
submission is what's needed for a part 2, then I could do so.
yeah.
One item though for seeker, I know we had talked about the property in the town of Chester that previously, when there was a prior owner, adjacent property, it was proposed as a common plan. So to ensure that there's no improper segmentation, I know the applicant consultant, I believe, advised that it's not in the same ownership, but simply not being in the same ownership doesn't necessarily mean it's not part of the same plan. So I think any information on that and status is of that plan.
So we are the engineers for both projects. They are completely different clients, and not at all involved.
Yeah, aren't they technically, are they separated by the wetland? Is the wetland
There
or
are
not?
portions of the project that are not separated by wetland, but there are chunks of it. It is the adjoiner, so.
Yeah, were there actually 2 parcels at a butt? 2 different parcels in Chester, or is it one?
It's one for the other project.
Also does require referral to the county, so once you make that next submission, assuming that's a full statement, I'd recommend that Noreen sends it up to the county.
So this one is, just bring this up. Meadow Hill Subdivision LLC? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, Brooklyn, New York. And then this one, that's the other, correct?
Correct.
Oakwood Subdivision LLC, although the address, and the address is different. I saw Brooklyn, but they're two different addresses. OMAC, they were both OMAC Realty back in 2018 when this, I think you were the prior.
The prior engineer, the prior
Yeah.
owners.
Yep, under OMAC. And then it looks like it was, as of 12/19/2022, they were both Meadow Hill LLC. And then it was sold, and then as of 12/19/2022, that must have been when the change happened. But we have the LLC information, correct? Aren't we supposed to have that as part of our application? But we wouldn't necessarily know what Chester has. But you're saying, you're representing that they're totally different,
They're two different clients.
two different clients. So, and then in terms of segmentation, I know that in certain areas, there are wetlands present, so I don't know. I think the question was whether there should be a connection out to Lakes Road from an access perspective. But I have no idea what the status is in Chester.
So that project is also a conservation subdivision, so there wouldn't be a means to create that connection that I'm aware of without going through one of these building lots, and that wouldn't, I don't think that would be feasible.
Well, if they're in their separate ownership, I think that would be difficult.
Yes.
That's more the problem, because why would one consent to the other?
Right.
All right, so we can maybe investigate that a little bit,
So
but,
in an effort to keep the project moving, and, do we need recommendations for Orange County Department of Health and to start those? I know that their seeker regulations kind of changed within the past year or anything like that. Can we start those reviews in DPW and all those other agencies?
My experience is DOH wants preliminary approval from the board in order to begin review, which
Board of Health review.
wouldn't happen until hearing.
Okay.
have we done GML?
No, you do need to refer once you have a full statement. So assuming this next submission would be a full statement for purposes of rendering a determination of significance, then Noreen can send it up.
So is it the SWIP, or you're saying we need the neg, we
So
don't need a
the-
neg deck normally?
Anything that you would be basing your neg deck on. So the SWIP, I think wetlands, information, well tests, soil tests, endangered species.
So I think,
So you need a well test, so you need a test well drilled to,
I think we need it as per our
The
regulations.
local regulations, this is 6, so you need 2 of the wells tested. I believe the wells were started to begin installed, or at least 2 of them.
I think that there were driveways installed for, potentially maybe for the well testing. They were partially installed. I think that was.
I don't know if that was part of, if you remember, Ward came in and he was upset because of some clearing that had been done, and it wasn't clear who had done the grading or if it was done specifically to do some of the testing.
And my understanding was a permit from Orange County DPW was not obtained to cut those driveways in. So
Right.
we ask that you get the permits for the driveways from Orange County DPW, as well as Ben likes to see a permit pulled for each well. That's the building inspector.
Okay, so.
And then the well testing protocol, is that something your hydrogeologist would come up with, or Sean can come up with?
I don't know, what do we know?
We would
Project.
typically just look for the standard DOH protocol, so.
Okay,
So generally, DOH reviews the placement of the wells and sewage disposal systems, so we're essentially drilling those wells without that approval, correct?
I guess,
I can help you reach out to Lee Burgess to ensure that he's satisfied with the locations prior to drilling.
That would be great. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row before.
Right, yep.
okay. So you'll work on that,
Yep.
so that, and then you'll work with the DPW just to get because they do want temporary access permits. And then you'll work with Ben Maldonado to get whatever permits are needed for the well
Building permit.
installation.
Yep.
And in the meantime, we'll have Dave Tompkins go out to take a look at the site. I think even if we just pull up an EAF short form to go through the list to see if there's anything that we're missing would be useful. Not this evening, but I think just to get the seeker process moving. And then if you do the SWIP, if you have some of this information by the next meeting, it could be referred to the county, possibly, but we'll have to see how much is submitted.
So SWIP, wetlands, the well tests, the DPW for the drives, and I assume the tree plan prior to the board being able to act on approval, and then go to DOH.
I think
Well tests, soil tests, wetlands, tree plan, endangered species, I think we're triggered for.
are we in that here, or?
I think we were, and I think that there is a note on the plans. Yes, note 9 on sheet 1 for the Indiana bat.
Not sure if anything else was triggered or if anything might come.
There was previously a SHPO comment for archaeologically sensitive area, but I believe that was satisfied by the previous applicants. There was a letter of, no impact statement.
So I think we'll have to make sure that the area of potential effect hasn't changed for the SHPO.
I thought it was done for the entire site, but
I think you might be right. Just trying to see here. I think it was done by Tracker.
yeah, Tracker did. My understanding was a phase 1, and then we had a letter of non-significance from, or no impact rather.
So back in 2019, there were no archaeological, but what we need is actually the APA. Pretty sure we received it. It may just not popping wetlands. You have that in your files? Do you remember that, Ashley?
I don't have it saved separately, so one of the applicants perhaps, but do you have a copy of the letter?
It's specifically for the,
We need to make sure we have the phase 1A that was done. I thought we did.
For the phase 1A.
that would have been under the previous applicant. So,
Right.
I could.
I mean, it should be in our files, in our digital files. Was it under Oakwoods before?
No.
This has always been called.
Okay.
That was, I think, the Chester subdivision.
Oh, okay.
I'm not seeing an impact letter.
Yeah, I
Send
have.
that to me.
Yes, I will do that. There was, so just so you know, there was a well testing plan back in 2020.
I just found that as well. I was just going to mention that Frank Etchell did put together a well testing plan in 2021.
So we should probably align whatever you're doing with that.
Absolutely.
We had a DPW review already, but I don't know if the layouts and the actual access, shared access has changed.
Well, now that we have somewhat of a more concrete idea of the layout, we can reach out to DPW and make sure that they're okay with the locations. And then, Sean, in your experience, have you been able to, or have you seen anywhere where Orange County has started the testing prior to, obviously not the reviews, but at least the joint testing portion of the projects that we can confirm?
Don't recall.
Okay.
I could look back at DG subdivision, but
Okay.
I don't recall.
And maybe that's something that we could discuss with Lee, along with the Thank you.
So, and then we did have, this had been reviewed previously by the Monroe Conservation Commission, so they had some recommendations with regard to the white ash. But that they were succumbing to infestation and then natives. So we have all of this, but I'm not right away coming up with the tracker report. It's possible we have it in hard copy.
Okay.
That might be, I'll take a look at my
I'll
stuff.
double check through our files.
Okay, yeah, let us know if you need it, because we want to just check and make sure that the area of potential effect hasn't changed and we didn't miss anything.
Absolutely.
Any comments back there? Dennis, you're here from MCC. If you want to come up to the mic. Do you have Meadow Hill? Do you have this application yet or no? Okay, so we'll need to get this to Dennis, please. Oh. Thanks, Sue.
Yeah, I see that Ward did a report at a much earlier date. I guess I'd like to get a copy of that. I know I probably should have it on file, but at some point to go out there, but that may be down the road.
Okay.
But to get hold of the Ward's report would be good. I'll talk to you, Noreen. Yeah, okay.
And then did your group, so I think Ward and his group already went out and did a field visit, but since we essentially have a new MCC, did you want to get out onto the site?
Possibly. I'd be interested to see that report and to also to take a closer look at the site plans.
Okay.
To see whether it's, warranted.
Okay.
Yeah. Clearly
So-
there's a lot going on there with the wetlands, which is interesting. Be interesting to get out there just to look at the wetlands actually when, is it Mr. Who goes out there for the wetlands?
Dave Tompkins.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
So maybe we can find out when Dave is going to go out there and let the MCC know, or let us know too. Maybe we'll go out with them as well.
Yeah, that would be just a good educational exercise just to go out and see how he plots out the wetlands. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I think that's about what we can handle this evening with this application. So
Table, Dennis.
So,
Okay. Thank you all
definitely
very much.
coordinate with Sean. We'll look for some materials, we'll get the MCC out there, and go from there.
Okay. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too. All right, so, next item on the agenda, are we to Henry Farm? This is the old agenda. So the next item was Henry Farm Sidewalk. We should try and get a date because they've been waiting forever, and you're invited as well. Henry Farm, we're trying to get out there to a site walk. That project is over by the former landfill, the solar site. So how's everybody's schedules? I mean, for me personally, weekends are far better than weekdays. And I think if we're doing weekdays, 4 o'clock, around that time is better, just because I have a lot of night meetings. What are people thinking? What's good for them?
Either.
You can do weekends or, any preferences? Scheduling limitations because of work?
Schedule is very, very tough, very tight. I'm available Sundays,
Sundays?
yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately, that's what I have.
It's a fifth week.
Huh?
Next week's a fifth week.
So we have an extra, fewer meetings, although I have a few already.
ZBA Tuesday.
Yeah, I have to send you some materials as per the request from the last meeting. And are you guys good for a Saturday or Sunday, or no, you really? well, not this weekend.
I'm just reminding
Depends
you,
on
I'm
the-
looking
Come
at the calendar.
on.
It depends on the day, but if we could do one during the week at like a 4 PM too, that would be,
But we could pick 2 days. You know, so that if people can't make it the one, they can make it the other. I can go on a Sunday. That'd be fine with me. So maybe let's pick like
Day at 4.
a weekday at 4 and a Sunday. We could do May 29th at 4. Does that sound good for some? Yes? Okay. And so we'll say May 29th at 4, we'll propose that to, it's Vince, right, that's been asking? And then how is the 2nd as a backup, Sunday?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. So if you could also, Sunday, June 2nd. No later, no earlier than 10. I hoot with the owls.
I didn't quote what you said. It just took a second.
Wednesday, the 29th, 4 o'clock.
Correct.
4
And
PM
the
or-
alternate date for those who can't make that, where it's better, would be Sunday the 2nd,
At 11
11. Sounds good.
a.m.
AM. We're not going out there with flashlights.
But she's not doing it at 11 p.m.
Again, whichever works for you. Okay?
I will present them to Vince in the morning.
Perfect. All right, minutes. So, Ashley, Sean, anything you want to raise before we get to minutes? You're good? You're good? Thank you. Good night.
I had revisions from Jeff today on the 19th. I did not have a chance to do them.
So, the 14th was, we have that already.
I don't have the revisions from you.
I definitely sent those because
I researched for them yesterday.
I'll send them to you.
Yeah,
I
would
know
you-
I did them because I did them and I was like, oh wait, I wasn't there on the 19th, so that's.
Right, I have Jeff's gave them to me today,
Okay,
and then the other two you,
and I have those here. I managed to do them for tonight. So. Well, so we have to see if we have enough people also. All right. So for 314, let's table, because you said you didn't have mine.
no,
Okay, so let's table 314. Okay, 319 is the one I got from Jeff.
just did them.
So who was there? Pat, Bob.
Right back, he just went to open the door.
Okay, so Pat, Bob, and myself were there, so we have 3.
This is which one?
This is 319.
319.
I guess he didn't, he didn't redline them? Do you know if my version of what I have here, he didn't seem to redline. Does it look like his are redline?
Didn't. I'll compare it to it, so
So I just want to put a note in here. Good night. All right, so 314, we are tabling. Okay, so next is 319. Oh, no, yeah, 319 is the one that Jeff provided us with. And Lou was not here, so he can't vote, and we need Bob. All right, so let's go to. I don't know. I think he went. There's a
Oh, did he go
meeting
back
next
to his
door.
His community is having a board meeting next door.
Yeah.
That's what all the extra people are here for tonight, so he's been bouncing between the two.
So we can do We can do, we have Lou, myself, and Pat, so we could do the minutes of April 11th without him.
No, the 16th.
Well, 11th first, right? We have 4/11 and
Miss
4/16.
Pat on my no, I'm sorry.
So just for the minutes, Lou was filling in for someone, probably Nick Napoli, right? So we just need to make that reference in the minutes.
Oh, next to his name.
Yeah, so I have that as a note. And then I'm just trying to see if I had any particular questions here. So I redlined mine, so you could see what the edits were.
Yeah, if you send it to me, I'll.
I may have just had a question. I moved Member Manson returning to the dais after the vote.
Oh, okay. Well, the vote automatically shows up at the bottom.
Yeah, so, but it's important that he wasn't sitting, he didn't
Right.
return and then the vote
No, I
happened.
understand. I just didn't even think about moving it.
And then at the very end, I think this is the minutes. We had the votes on a whole bunch of different minutes. And this one was okay, actually. It's the next set that we have to make some changes. So, all right, with that, would someone please make a motion that we adopt the April 11, 2024 meeting as edited minutes?
So moved.
Noreen?
Second.
Second?
Bonnie Franson,
Aye?
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Lou Rivera.
Aye.
Okay, so this
Done.
adopted, and that is 24/05/21, okay? Now we go to 416. Yeah,
All say
they'll,
draft?
they'll be,
Do you
yeah, they're
approve?
final until we
I take
approve
it
them.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here tomorrow.
So the same, good night.
Unless I hit the lottery tonight.
So the same,
Lottery?
you and
tonight?
me,
If I hit the lottery tonight, I'm not coming to work tomorrow.
I'm out,
Where are we going?
I'm out.
How much is it tonight?
I have no clue. I just said that because he asked if I was.
You'll take a cool meal, right?
Yeah, you got that.
Oh, yeah. Pay for you for less.
Yeah.
I'm for less.
Yeah, me
Bob's
too.
back if you wanna-
Okay, great. So we can do the 416 minutes. Bob was absent anyway, so let's get this one done. And then Bob, we need you for the last one. All right, so same thing here. The motion needs to say that Lou was sitting in for Nick.
Right.
Right? So under returning projects, 24 Raywood LLC, it says Hannah Fireworker, but later it says Mr.
I went back 5 times to listen to what he said his name was.
So maybe we could just shoot
I'll
an
ask
email
Joel.
to the.
It was the gentleman that was sitting here tonight.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe it is, but I doubt
I
it.
went back. They're very hard to understand sometimes, and
Yeah.
Isaac Stein is hard enough to get sometimes.
So ask Isaac so we can
Well,
straight.
yeah, they ask Isaac or Joel.
Right. Now, here you would added a little question mark, exemption submitted. And you had a question mark. I don't know what that is.
I might have had it. He was saying some type of an exemption, and I couldn't understand what it was. I didn't know whether anybody else might have caught it.
All right, I'll have to listen to it.
I was going to ask Sean, and I forgot.
Okay, so let's try and, let's straighten that out as
Yep.
part of the adoption. And then, new projects, typos. Okay. This needs to be reviewed. Mr. Dillon, the existing lot coverage is already right there, and it's actually doesn't even have the lots under pre-existing square footage, so I don't know why. Topography truly reflect the lot area post-condition. This is like not making sense to me, so we have to look at these 3 lines. I'm going to yellow them to be changed. And then this is where we had those 2 lot line adjustments. And then here you have, okay, so on this one, the minutes, you had the ones that were approved, and then you had March 14th, 2024, you need to say tabled. You didn't have
Oh.
actually an action after it. So I'm assuming they're tabled since we're working on them now.
Right.
All right, so subject to Noreen editing those sections and amendments that are in this April 16, 2024 Planning Board regular meeting minutes, I will make a motion that we adopt it. May I have a second?
Second.
Noreen?
Branson,
Aye?
Aye.
Robert Garstack,
I think you have to abstain, yeah.
Abstain.
Aye.
Okay, so now we go back to, was it 319 or 314? Oh, no, we don't have 314, so 319, right? That's the one where we need Bob? Yes.
we don't have, no, because it was Jeff, Pat, Nick, and Robert.
Oh, I'm not
319.
there. All right, never mind. Table it.
Yeah, 319 has to be tabled,
Okay, so 319 will table.
and 314 you said tabled.
For some reason, I thought I was present, but of course I wasn't. All right, so this is tabled. And the 14th table, and the 11th is adopted. And then 16th is adopted, and then I have to send you those. Okay. So with all of that, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
Pick a first and a second, Noreen.
I did.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Motion carries.